is what it's like out here. It's really peaceful and serene.
Hey folks, we're here in the Cieneguita camp area in the Las Ciénegas National Conservation Area, and we are about 40 miles northwest of Sierra Vista, Arizona.
We're about 37 miles from the Mexico border, and we're 37 miles south of Tucson, so we're halfway.
But more importantly, we are about an hour from Bisbee, Arizona.
I love Bisbee.
We love Bisbee, and that's what we're here to talk about in this video. So we'll get to that in a minute, but first we're going to talk a little bit about this place because, like every place that we keep visiting, you spend a few days here, and it's pretty fabulous.
So we are on BLM land.
Bureau of Land Management.
Yes, so it's free camping for up to 14 days.
How much does it cost?
It's free.
It's free. That's our favorite price.
It's our favorite price. And we're in the grasslands. We're surrounded by beautiful mountains, a lot of trees.
Most of which have not bloomed yet. They don't even look like they're ready to bloom. I don't know what they are.
And blue sky, quiet.
Last night we saw a beautiful sunset, which is pretty typical when you're out in the desert like this. However, none of that is what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about Bisbee, Arizona. We're going to show you some cool stuff to see around town. We're going to tell you about some of the things that we did, the things that we ate, the things that we drank while we were there, and we're going to take you along on an incredible hike. This was just fantastic, to the Bisbee Cross Shrine.
So Bisbee is in the middle of nowhere. It's a mountain town, and it's a hippie town, a hipster town, a mining town, a western town, but most of all, it's an art town. There is art everywhere. Yard art, there are murals, there are sculptures, everywhere you turn, there's art. Bisbee is really hilly.
Super hilly, and if you're going to walk around Bisbee, be prepared to climb a lot of steps. In fact, the stairs are so famous. Bisbee has a race called the Bisbee 1000 Stairclimb. Apparently it got so popular that they had to limit it to 1,500 people. It happens every year in October. I think that would be a really cool race to do, something cool to see.
And our friend Sam told us, if you see a set of stairs, take it, because you'll never know what you're going to see up there.
But we did climb a lot of the stairs, and I would suggest you do it too. It's really cool. It is not always ideal, nor is it always possible to drive a car, I think, on some of the streets in Bisbee. We witnessed a couple times cars having difficulty dealing with some of the roads there.
The roads are really narrow, and we witnessed a lot of people having to back down if somebody else wanted to turn a corner.
Which we certainly did not want to do in the Cubby van, so we did our favorite thing anyway, which is park the van and walk. Talk a bit about the art. When you say it's an art town, what kind of things can you expect to see in Bisbee? What kind of things did we see?
It's art on walls. It's art made out of metal. It's paintings. It's graffiti. It's everywhere. The town is so creative, and there are a lot of colorful characters there. People in costumes, regular clothing, but the costumes to us.
We saw a pirate several times.
Oh yeah, we saw a pirate. I saw a guy walking around in a dress, and he wore it really well. So more men should wear dresses more often, I think, because he looked good. But anyway.
I'll put a dress on if you want me to, just not on video. Yeah, so there's art on people's home. Like every house has some kind of art, a sculpture in the yard, or something on the door or the windows. It's really cool. There's even a walkway there that's filled with paintings between these buildings where they basically made an outdoor art gallery out of it.
And they're hung salon style, so they're one on top of another, and it goes all the way up the wall, and it goes the whole length of this alley. All different types of art, some good, some not so good, but, and it changes. People say it changes all the time.
Some cool graffiti too. Live music is another thing that apparently 7 days a week there's live music going on somewhere.
There's music everywhere. There are buskers on the street. They are playing in bars. The bars open, I think, at 8 a.m. Maybe they never close, but people are drinking at 8 a.m. I'll tell you that much.
If you're a fan of barflies, and I am, you'll get to see some in Bisbee. Speaking of bars, there are a lot of bars in Bisbee as well. There's one called St. Elmo Bar, and there were some serious local types hanging out at there at 10 a.m. in the morning. Those are generally the kind of bars I like to go in. You probably can take your dog in there because the whole place is dog friendly.
Very dog friendly.
One of the places we did take the dog into was a place called the Bisbee Grand Hotel. They said it was okay to bring Charlie in. We did. We did not hang out too long. So, day one.
We walked a lot. We walked and we walked and we walked.
What you're going to see when you walk these back streets is people's homes, mainly. You're going to be looking in their backyards. You're going to be looking at their patios, which are all on view, their verandas. Some of these houses are just incredible with incredible views. But they do have signs posted I saw here and there asking people to please be respectful, saying, this is our home, this is where we live, this is where we work. So enjoy Bisbee, enjoy the view, enjoy exploring, just be respectful about it. We did find one gallery there that had only been open 2 days after being closed for 2 years during COVID, called the Sam Poe Gallery. And I was totally knocked out by the art in there. It was a two-person team, both of them great artists, Sam and Poe. And we met Sam and got to talking to her, and she was just so kind and so nice. She said, hey, do you want to see my studio? And we said, sure. So she closed the gallery, even though it had only been open for 2 days after being closed for 2 years. And I said, you're going to close the gallery? She said, I'm the owner, I can do whatever I want. So she closed the gallery and walked us over to the Central School, an old school building that contains artist studios, and she had what must have been the best studio, right?
A corner studio with windows upstairs, beautiful views, beautiful light.
Huge
Amazing.
studio in an old school building, still had the blackboards on the wall. And not only was I totally awestruck by her studio, but I was awestruck by her work as well. So then she walked us over to the Copper Queen Hotel, and her husband Poe was playing with his band there out on the veranda on Sunday afternoon. A lot of people hanging out, enjoying the music. After we left the Copper Queen Hotel,
We went to the old Bisbee Brewing Company to have a drink.
we sat outside. Again, Charlie was allowed. The dogs seemed to be allowed everywhere in Bisbee. All of the beers that they had on the menu were labeled as gluten removed. And I had some really delicious Copper City Ale. And I'll tell you what, it was really good beer. And Nita had something very interesting that we had never heard of before.
A lime salute. It's sort of a cross between Prosecco and champagne. It's sparkling, but then they put lime in it. It tastes a little bit like Sprite.
After that, we were looking for a place to boondock, and we found a place on I-Overlander called Juniper Flats. It's just right outside of town, up a very, very high, very steep mountain. Bisbee's at 5,300, and we were up above 7,000 feet on Juniper Flats. Getting there was a little bit of a challenge. If you're going to go there, the road is in great condition. It's loose gravel, but there were a couple switchback hairpin turns that were seriously steep. We were in second gear and I thought the engine was just gonna die and I was gonna have to back down that hill, which I didn't want to do. We did see somebody with a fifth wheel up there, so you fifth wheelers are crazy, I'm telling you, with the big trucks. I don't know how he got around those hairpin turns, but he did. Once you get to the top, it's pretty flat, gently rolling up there, and the views are absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing, right?
Mm-hmm. Spectacular.
And, yeah, spectacular. Just a fabulous place. If you can get your rig up there, great place to boondock. So what did we do the next day?
Well, in the morning after breakfast, we explored Juniper Flats and we went for a hike up there, the three of us.
The view spots are just amazing. There's a whole bunch of them. Just keep going up the road and you're sure to find something incredible. We certainly did and really like it up here. Love Bisbee also. Bisbee's just an amazing little art town and we enjoyed it a lot. I'd highly suggest you visit here. And then we took a drive. My friend Steve Drotar on Facebook asked me if I had seen the copper mine. And I said I hadn't yet, but it was certainly on our agenda. The copper mine is this gigantic pit that you can see from anywhere in town, practically. It dominates the scenery. There's the Lavender pit and the Sacramento pit, both. And the Lavender pit is not named Lavender because of its color, because lavender grows there, but it's named after Harrison M. Lavender. That pit ran from 1917 to 1974. It's 4,000 feet wide, 5,000 feet long, and 850 feet deep. And regardless of what you think about mining or copper or tearing a gigantic hole in the earth, it really is something to see. It's like seeing a man-made Grand Canyon.
Mm-hmm. You can take a tour. You can go down 1,500 feet and ride a little car and go inside the mine. But we didn't do it because we had Charlie.
It's definitely a must if you get to Bisbee. But that night we were looking for another place to boondock, and we boondocked next to one of our favorite people of the trip. We boondocked next to Casey and
Captain Kirk.
Captain Kirk, the wonder dog, yes.
Really cute dog.
She was really hip and from the UP, right?
From the UP, one of our favorite places.
Another one of our favorite places, the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. And she took us on a tour of the town at night, which is really cool.
It's really nice because they have lights, colored lights, just crossing the street, and the streets are pretty empty. And so it was quiet, and it just fit the town perfectly.
Yeah, it was Monday night, so there was like no one on the street. And it was only about 9 o'clock or something.
It felt very European to me.
Yeah, so she showed us around the town, gave us some tips on where to get coffee in the morning if we needed it.
Bathrooms.
And bathrooms, told us where the public restrooms were. Took us in one or two of the bars. She took us into the Bisbee Grand Hotel. She took us into the Bisbee Social Club. It's kind of a hipster bar. Looks really cool. Wasn't many people there on Monday night.
If the red light is on outside, they're open.
I would suggest you go hang out there. We didn't. But we did go and look at the art walk at night, right? What I'd call it the art walk. It's that gallery. And at night, it was really something to see too. So the next day, we met another vagabond artist named
Joshua. But Casey calls him the torch guy.
And that is because Joshua makes some really interesting sculptures, mainly, I guess, out of plastic bags, trash, garbage. And he stood there and gave us his philosophies on art. And then he actually made a piece of art for me. He said, hey, I want you to shoot me making a piece of art. I'll show you how I do my art with a torch and a plastic bag. I'm gonna make a snake. It'll only take 2 minutes. It took 6. It probably took 6 because it was a little bit windy. But it was really cool watching him making a snake out of a discarded plastic bag. It was really cool because the snake got hard. It wasn't like soft and pliable at all. It was like a hard piece of plastic. Now we're going to give you one of the big highlights of our entire trip, which was the hike to the Bisbee Cross Shrine.
Right. You can see it from town. You can see it way up on the mountain. You can see white crosses, and you have to figure out how to get there. It's really high.
Yeah, you know, a number of people I asked how to get there, they weren't really sure.
They'd never been there.
So we had to consult Google Maps, and the first place we went that looked like it went up to the Cross Shrine, it was a dead-end street that turns into a dirt road, that turns into a trail up into a canyon called Wildcat Canyon. And by the time we got about a mile up into Wildcat Canyon, we realized we were on the wrong trail, so we had to start over again. We did eventually find it, and I'm going to give you some directions right now before we get up there and take the hike. Here's what you're going to do. You're going to look for Brewery Avenue, and you're going to see the Mimosa Market. As you're facing the Mimosa Market, on your left, you're going to see another set of steps. You're going to take those steps all the way to the top. You get to a little parking area, and you'll see there's a concrete pad there, and then there's like a little switchback there, and you'll see a sign that says private drive. The first part of it I don't think is really private. Maybe it is. If you walk up that really rough driveway, you're going to see your friend Jesus waiting at the top. Jesus is waiting for you. And Jesus even has a sign that points to my cross. That's really where the hike begins.
It's a lot of switchbacks, a lot of rockiness.
Loose rocks that you have to kind of stumble over.
Very narrow.
Gets narrow, but then it gets pretty steep.
Yeah.
When you get to the top, it's pretty steep. It's not hand over, but it's loose rock. You got to watch your footing.
But the hardest part was really the wind for me. It was so windy. I felt like I was going to be blown off the mountain.
But the payoff?
It was amazing.
The payoff is spectacular. There are shrines everywhere. It's not just one shrine. You have Jesus. You have Our Lady of Guadalupe. You've got personal shrines to loved ones. Few objects make me feel like perhaps there's some false deities up there or multiple gods going on. That's okay. You got some
prayer flags, you have photos, you have jewelry, we have little amulets everywhere, charms, just things people leave for other people.
Yeah, and of course, what mountaintop shrine would be complete without a barbecue grill?
There's one up there.
And apparently it's used too. There's charcoal in it. And there are some really cool personal handmade shrines up there. A couple that I've wanted to shoot that I didn't because I'm not afraid of heights, but I was afraid of falling off some of those rocks, especially
windy.
With the wind.
Yeah.
It was crazy. The views from up there of Bisbee and the local environs, everything was just unparalleled. We came down from there, and where did we go to lunch?
Oh, Glenn is a hot dog aficionado. And we found Jimmy's Hot Dogs.
Jimmy's Hot Dogs. If you love hot dogs, get in your car, drive to South Bisbee, I think it's South Bisbee, and go to Jimmy's Hot Dogs. Definitely worth the trip. Had a gigantic chili and cheese dog. Got the hand-cut fries. They asked if I wanted chili and cheese on them. Sure, why not? Would I do it again? I would definitely go to Jimmy's Hot Dogs again. I would definitely have the hot dog. I would definitely have the fries. I don't know if I'd have the chili and cheese because although it was delicious, I had to dig to find the hot dog and the fries underneath it. There was a mountain of food. And then on the way back into Bisbee from Jimmy's Hot Dogs, we stopped at Lowell. This is a must. You must go to Lowell if you're visiting Bisbee.
So Lowell is a part of Bisbee, and it seems like it's a ghost town.
It's just a single street, appears to be an old downtown.
And parked along the street are old cars, like vintage cars just parked there.
Where they got all these old cars from, I don't know. A lot of things are in disrepair. It's as if people just left the town like there was an apocalypse or something like that.
It's just fascinating.
So very, very cool to see. I actually appreciated that it didn't seem to be renovated or anything like that, because you really feel like you're seeing the authentic town. That Greyhound bus was really cool.
So the neighborhood, I read, disappeared because the pit took over the whole neighborhood and people's homes, so nobody lives there.
The pit is right next to Main Street, and I would imagine, I think that we had read that maybe there were some homes and other buildings there, and as the pit expanded, it just kind of swallowed up Lowell. People just moved into Bisbee, I guess, whatever, and just left everything there. after Lowell, we visited the Shady Dell trailer park.
Oh, this place is great. And you can stay there. They have vintage trailers. And what else do they have?
A yacht.
You can stay in a yacht.
So if our friend Joe ever comes to Bisbee, he'll have to stay there because he likes to live on yachts.
He does.
The yacht has tiki gods out front. There was an old bus there that had a tiki god out front. So we're big fans of mid-century modern. We love that stuff, and this place just knocked me out. If I ever go back to Bisbee, even though I have the Cubby van, I'm gonna have to stay in one of these. I particularly fell in love with this trailer called the Crop Cruiser, made by Crop Manufacturing in Goshen, Indiana. And I think if and when the Cubby van trip is over, I'm gonna look for a Crop Cruiser to live in.
Really?
Yeah, it was awesome. And if you wanna learn more about the Shady Dell trailer park and you'd like to see some interior shots from some of these trailers, go ahead and check it out. It's at theshadydell.com. Next, we went to the top of Castle Rock, which we discovered quite by accident. It's just an amazing thing and another one of these must-do things when you visit Bisbee. Castle Rock is two massive stone spires that tower over Tombstone Canyon Road, and it's directly across from the appropriately named Inn at Castle Rock. Can be seen from a lot of places in town. And the way you get to the top of Castle Rock is by walking up this very pretty, very narrow, steep street called Maxfield Avenue. When you get to the top, you'll see a little parking area there, and you're right at the top of the two spires, and you can walk out along the edge. There's no railing. It's very steep, it's very high, it's very dangerous. I'm not recommending that you do it, but I did it, and once again, an amazing payoff. Views of Bisbee and views down into the canyon and the Inn at Castle Rock below. Just stunning. So, final part of our trip, which was really interesting. We're back in town at the end of the day, and we heard somebody say, "Hey, are you folks from here?" And we turned around, and there was Sam sitting in her car. We were like, "Hey, Sam, what's going on?" We went over, she asked us what we were doing, what we had been doing, what we had seen. We told her we were going to be boondocking in the parking lot in town, and she said, "Don't do that. We have a place for you." And she took us to, this time, Poe's studio, where his studio is, and they have some property there. And she gave us a tour of that property, and I'll tell you what, I told you, they're real artists, and we really love seeing their studios. They're telling them about the property that they have there.
So there are, what do you think, maybe 6 buildings?
Yeah, something like that.
6 buildings?
And they're putting more in, right?
And they're putting more in. They hope to do an artist foundation eventually and have artists come and work there. But it was Poe's studio, and he just has stuff. Wood and metal and games and found objects and just treasure. Like things he collects, because he does assemblage, like beautiful pieces.
And one of those treasures was something that could be of interest to other travelers out there, which was the small teardrop trailer that they travel in, called a vestibule. That thing was amazing. I would love to have one of those and tow it
really
with a
well
Cubby
made.
van. If I could have my kitchen and my bed in that trailer, I could open up the Cubby van and have it be in like a nightclub or something, you know? I don't know. I don't know what I would do with it. Just a fantasy, because that trailer is amazing. So we'd like to thank Poe and Sam for letting us stay on their property. I'd like to thank Sam for showing us around Bisbee and giving us some of the lowdown. I'd like to thank Casey for giving us some extra tips and making it fun to boondock next to her. And we would like to thank Joshua for showing us his art and adding his insight to the experience. Bisbee, great town. Juniper Flats, boondocking in town. Did I say it was 420 friendly? Very 420 friendly, which just was the icing on the cake. I won't say any more, okay? Any final thoughts on Bisbee for the folks out there?
Go there. There's something for everybody.
Go to Bisbee. Pack up right now. Yeah, go there now because we're not there. Don't go there while we're there, because I don't like crowds. Here's to Bisbee.